How can you use matching and
Counting to compare sets with the same number of objects.
Hi there! Have you seen the pretty flowers growing here? It looks like someone planted them in rows. How many flowers are in a row? Click this flower and we'll count them. 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 purple flowers. Wow! Now, look at these yellow flowers. I wonder if the number of yellow flowers is the same as the number of purple flowers.
Jill wants to count how many apples she has. She uses red counters to model her apples. Let's count them. Click the first counter to start. 1, 2. Jill has 2 counters. Aaron uses yellow counters to model his apples. How many apples does he have? Let's count them to be sure. 1, 2. Are there any more counters? No. So Aaron has 2 counters. Now compare Jill's counters with Aaron's counters. You can use lines to match the counters. Select the counters to match them. Does each counter have a match? Yes. So Jill and Aaron have the same number of counters. Here's a set of books. Let's count the books. 1, 2, 3, 4. Select the number that shows how many books you counted.
So the top choice shows us the number 3, and the bottom choice shows us the number 4. So we counted 4 books, so we're going to click on the number 4.
That's right. There are 4 books. Now count the apples. 1, 2, 3, 4. How many apples did you count?
So they counted 4 apples. So our 2 choices are, the top one shows us the number 4, and the bottom number shows us the number 5. So if we counted 4 apples, we're going to touch the number 4.
Yes, that's right. There are 4 apples. Now let's compare the sets. Are there the same number of objects in each set? How can you tell? Select each book to match it to an apple.
So when they match from one group to another group, you're simply drawing a line from one object down to the next object. So watch how they do it. That's one line from one book to one apple. That's another line from the next book to the next apple. Then we have the next line for the next book to the next apple. And that's
Good job! Each book matches each apple. There are 4 books and 4 apples. The sets have the same number of objects.
all right. So now we're going to look at our math books. So one thing I do want to point out, boys and girls, in your chapter 2 math books, okay? If you open up to page 80, so they keep going up in the numbers, go to page 80. They have vocabulary words there for you, okay? This time it's only one page of vocabulary words. So they have the word in English and Spanish in 2 different colors. And then on the back, they're showing you what the word means with pictures. So mamas and dads, one recommendation that I make, pull this page out and add it to the chapter 1 vocabulary cards and stick it back in the Ziploc bag. So that way they can always keep practicing those vocabulary words, okay? So now we are going to go to our math book. And in our math book, we are on page, let's see, 81. So 81 is the page that we're working on today. So we're going to use matching and counting to compare sets with the same number of objects, okay? So the same number means that there's one group and another group, and they're the same. They have equal, okay? So first, let's count and label the red counters, those red circles that are there. Let's count and label them with numbers. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm stopping at the number 4 because 4 was the last number that I counted for the red counters, okay? So we counted the red counters. Now we're gonna count the yellow counters. So those are the yellow circles down in the bottom frame, okay? So we're gonna count and label. 1, 2, 3, 4. And I'm stopping at the number 4 because 4 was the last number that I counted for the yellow circles, the yellow counters. So now we're gonna connect one red counter to one yellow counter. And the way we do that is by drawing a line. So they already made the lines for you. So all you're gonna do is trace that line for the first counters. Now you're gonna keep matching a red counter to a yellow counter until you cannot make any more matching lines. So I'm stopping there. Okay. So we have 4 red counters and we have 4 yellow counters. And what we did was we matched one red counter to a yellow counter by drawing a line from the red to the yellow. And we stopped at the number 4 because we cannot connect any more counters. So we have 4 red and 4 yellow. So with 4 in one set and 4 in the other set, it's the same number. So it's an equal number for both groups, okay? We're gonna go on to the next page now. So in the instructions, they're asking you to place counters, and I don't think boys and girls have counters at home, and it's totally fine. So one recommendation that I do tell the families is that if you're watching your child do the work, you can encourage them by giving them coins. So if you have pennies around, use pennies, and they can place them on the pictures. That way, when in the instructions they're asking you to move the counter into the 5 frame, they can take the penny and move it into the 5 frame, okay? So I actually don't even have any counters here on the smartboard, but what I'm gonna do is I'm going to label the cars first, okay? So let me label the cars and you're gonna follow along. Okay, so the purple car, number 1, because we always start with number 1. The green car, number 2. The red car, number 3. The yellow car, number 4, okay? I know they asked you to place counters on those objects, but if you don't have counters, don't worry about it. We'll just label them. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna take each of those numbers and we're gonna plug it into the 5 frame right underneath it. So if we labeled 4 cars, we're gonna illustrate 4 circles. So start with the first one. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we labeled and counted the cars. Then we took those labels and we put them in the 5 frame. So once I stopped at the 4th car, the 4th yellow car, then I was able to start illustrating the circles and the numbers in the 5 frame. And I'm only making 4 because we counted 4 cars. So that's the first part of the question. Now the next part of the question, they want you to count and label the puppets. Down at the bottom of the page, you have puppets. So let's start labeling the green dinosaur. So green dinosaur, we're always going to start with the number 1. The yellow cat, next number is going to be 2. The brown dog, next number is the number 3. And the bird, last one is number 4. I stopped at the number 4 because there are no more puppets for me to count and label. So I have 4 puppets. So now the next step that we're going to do is we're going to take those 4 labels of the puppets and we're going to plug them into the 5 frame right on top of it. So number 1 in the first box, number 2, box number 2, the next box, box number 3, and the last box, box number 4. So I'm stopping at 4 because I was only able to count and label 4 puppets. Now, the last step that they want us to do is they want us to match 1 counter from the top frame to the bottom frame down at the bottom. So by matching, we're going to draw lines. So you're going to connect the number 1 to the number 1. Connect the number 2 to the number 2. Connect number 3 to the number 3. And connect number 4 to the number 4. We're going to stop there because I cannot make any more matching lines. The numbers stop there. So we have 4 cars on top, 4 puppets on the bottom. In this chapter, we're going to learn if groups of objects are greater, that means that there's more than the other group, less, which means that there's a smaller number than the other group, or the same, equal, that means that it's the same in both sets of objects. So if you notice here, we were able to make 4 matching lines. So with the number 4 on top and the number 4 on bottom, that's the same number. So we have an equal number in both groups. It's the same number, okay? Now we're going to move on to the next page. We have some colorful caps and some juice boxes down at the bottom. So again, I don't expect anyone to have counters at home. If you do, great. If you don't worry. What we're going to do is we're going to count and label those hats instead, okay? So let's count and label the hats first, and then we're going to write the number on the line. So let's start with the red hat. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I stopped at the number 5 because 5 was the last number that I counted. So they're asking for us to write the number of caps that we counted. We counted 5. So on the line, we're going to write the number 5. Next, we're going to count and label the juice boxes. So let's start with the grape juice with the grapes on them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm stopping at the number 5 because 5 is the amount of juice boxes that I counted. So if 5 is the amount of juice boxes that I counted, the number that I write on the line is going to be the number 5. Now, on this page, they don't give us 5 frames to be able to draw the circles and put in the labels. So we cannot match them by drawing lines. The time that we match them by drawing lines is when we're giving the 5 frames. But because we're not given the 5 frames, we're not going to make any lines. Okay? So we're gonna stop there. There's one more page, but you can work on that on your own. I want to show you the assignment on the Google Classroom for your homework. So looking at the caps, you have 5 caps and you have 5 juice boxes. So 5 is the number that we wrote on top and 5 is the number that we wrote on the bottom. If you look at both numbers, it's the same number. So we have the same amount of caps as we have juice boxes. So 5 caps and 5 juice boxes. It's the same number for both groups on top and the bottom. Okay? All right, let me show you the assignment. In your math books, if you turn to the next page, page 85, that's going to be the Google Classroom assignment. So this is the first part where you have to count and label the dolphins and then write the number on the line. Count and label the turtles down below and write the number on the line. And then they want you to compare the 2 numbers. That means you're going to look at the 2 numbers and you're going to see what's going on with the 2 numbers. Is it the same number? Are they different numbers? Is one number greater than the other number, or is the other number less than the other number? Okay. Then on the back, page 86, it's some other concepts of math that we've learned. So all you have to do is just simply look at the instructions down below, and then it'll explain to you what to do. So for number 1, you count and label the cars. You write the number on the line. Then they want you to draw and show a set of counters that have the same set of cars. So you're going to illustrate down below the cars some circles, and you're going to label them, and they have to be the same amount as the cars on top. Okay? So don't leave it blank. Make sure your moms and dads help you read the instructions down below. The next question, they want you to count how many birds are in the cage. Don't draw any birds. Just look at the cage, how many birds are there, and you write the number. And then the last part, you trace the number 2, and you illustrate 2 circles by drawing them and labeling them with the numbers, okay?